Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And we have to take a look today at the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are an interesting animal to take a look at here because they've got some really big contract decisions here coming up really into the summer, and they've got some new management. Now they've been there for a year now. Ron Hextall, Brian Burke, and they had some disappointment in the playoffs last year. We know how things ended. The infamous Tristan Jarry choke job against the Islanders in their series in the first round last year. So how do the Penguins come back from that? And we're going to look at that today. So we have to talk about the big points. So there is a couple of very big pending UFAs. I've already made videos about this. If you guys want to check that out in my Penguins playlist, I'll put that here, probably in a link down below or even in the top corners of the video. But they have three big names that they have to figure out first. Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin, and Brian Rust. These are the secondary guys, and that's what we really have to look at. The Penguins have been good this year. They're top three in that division. You could argue they could still win that Metro division. I think it's pretty wide open still. So you have to assess this as they're one of the teams that's going to be a buyer, but they have so much that they could lose this summer if they don't sign these guys. So the first big one is Kasperi Kapanen. Kapanen was a big piece. Funny enough, he was the guy that was part of the Kessel trade going to Toronto. Now, inevitably, a couple years later, he ends up going back to the Penguins where he was drafted in a trade. So now we see Kapanen come back, and he's 25 years old. He's currently getting paid $3.2 million pending UFA this summer. And he's on pace for close to a career season. And he's probably going to get good money. I mean, people see this guy as a top six winger, and he could score. He has 0 points in his last couple of games, though. So in terms of relevancy, he hasn't been his best, like recently. But like I said, Penguins have Brian Rust, Evan Rodriguez, who I didn't even mention him, ahead of Kapanen on the depth chart. And both Rust and Rodriguez are pending UFAs. So again, he is a restricted free agent. That was my bad. Kasperi Kapanen is a restricted free agent. They don't mention if he's arbitration eligible. I'm sure that will play into it as well. I could see Kapanen as a guy that potentially gets offer sheeted. And the reason I say that is because I just don't think Pittsburgh's going to have the money. And if they do sign him, it's probably going to be a short 1 or 2 year deal at arbitration, or it's something they figure out during training camp where he's like, all right, I got to get ready for the season. Let's get this thing done on a short-term deal just so I could play. So that is going to be part of the discussion. But ideally for the Penguins, you lock him up long-term because you're buying unrestricted free agent years after that. And at 25 years old, I believe at the end of next season, if you sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal, you're walking him straight into UFA territory. So the Penguins have to be careful of that. So they might get a lower number on him for the next 2 years. That number could drastically go up in 2 years from now, right? So ex-general manager Jim Rutherford loves Cappy's game. It's hard to say exactly how everyone, including head coach Mike Sullivan, general manager Ron Hextall, and president of hockey ops Burke like him. Kapanen played 8 minutes of ice time on the last game in January against the Kings. Among Maple Leafs leaders for average ice time shorthanded for 3 years from 2017 to 2020. He scored 5 shorthanded goals during his time with the Maple Leafs. Kapanen has found himself in the doghouse of late in Pittsburgh, and with the team having some major decisions on key pieces like I mentioned, he could be on the outside looking in for next season. It's always seemed strange the Penguins have no interest in playing Kapanen on the penalty kill, considering how he did in Toronto. His role in Pittsburgh isn't necessarily suited for his game. Teams have been calling to get a sense of price tag, and some teams who are expected to be interested include the Vancouver Canucks, the Colorado Avalanche, and I could even see teams like the Rangers or a guy that was his general manager in Toronto, potentially Lou Lamoriello, and the New York Islanders. So I could see a bunch of different teams in that mix. But with that said, again, those two latter teams, the Rangers and the Islanders, I don't know if the Penguins want to trade a player like Kapanen in their division, or at the very least, they won't trade him for cheaper than maybe a team on the West Coast would. So that is it. I think this is one of those things where the Penguins, again, when you talk about Evan Rodriguez as well, how good he's been. Imagine he got to the All-Star game. That would have been like, oh man, we have a lot of good talent, which again, when you're spoiled for choice, it's great for the Penguins. It's just, how do they handle this thing? Because Letang, he's looking at a lot of money. So if you're going to keep Letang, you're probably going to say bye-bye to both Rodriguez and Kapanen potentially. Right off bat, right off rip, you might lose those two guys. And that kind of comes into where they have to, as the Penguins brass has to say, listen, we could get guys that play that same game but for cheaper. And that's really what that's going to come down to. They have to get the right players, though, in order to do that as well. So, guys, that is it for today's video. Comment down below. What do you think of the Pittsburgh Penguins? Who should they keep? Who should they let go? I'm, give you that little list. Who should go? Rodriguez, Kapanen, Malkin, Letang, Rust. Let me know, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time. Go Pens.